Hello, hello. Welcome to the replay. I'll wait just a second. Let some people come on in. We're talking about writing as usual. Hello, Jack. So what I do, hey, Dalune? Sorry if I said that wrong. Dalune. Hello, hello. Oops, sorry, there's a weird lighting thing. How are you guys doing today? Where y'all coming in from? Let me know where you're scoping from. I am from Texas. I'm hanging out at my parents' house actually for a couple days. Brought the kids in. And have I got Siri? Yeah, I'm working on an iPhone here. Wow. Yes, on a Mac. Where are you guys from? That's the coolest thing about Scope is you get London. I have to say, I have Twitter. Yes, I am at Morgan G Mac. If you hit the little Perry dude down there and hit follow, Turkey. If you hit follow, you'll see my profile also at Morgan G Mac. That's my Twitter. Windows 10. I have not used Windows in a while. I used to, and then I switched to Mac. Follow me. Maybe. I don't know what you do. Do you broadcast? What do you broadcast about? All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. Tech. Nice. I always need help with tech. So today we are talking about writing and editing. So this is a big question mark around for a lot of writers. So I was actually just the other day watching Chris Ducker, who is a periscoping maniac right now, but he delivers some of the best content on Periscope, and he scopes about business and entrepreneurship and virtual assistant stuff. But anyway, he was doing the scope about writing his book, which released a couple years ago, I guess, and he started talking about the editing process. Oh, hold on, time out. You don't know who I am. I'm Morgan Gist McDonald. I'm a writing coach and editor and author and founder of PaperRavenEditing.com. So that's where I run my business. I work with authors just all day, every day. So, of course, when Chris Ducker started talking about his experience with editing and writing his own book, I was all ears, right? So, hello, Martin. Thanks for joining. And some people started asking some questions like, when you hired your editor, did you lose a lot of power in the process? And did they screw up your manuscript and wreck your book and all this stuff? And I realized there's a really big kind of misconception about the relationship between writers and editors. And so I've been on both ends, right? I've written a book and had it edited, and I have people edit my writing as well, because just like a doctor, you need doctors go to other doctors, right? Hello. 3 Bidul Aziz. Sorry, I don't really know how to say your name. You're from the Middle East. Nice. Welcome. It's probably pretty late over there. Thanks for joining. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this relationship between writers and editors. And so really what you're going for, the Holy Land, nice. Both the writer and the editor are going for the same goal, which is for your writing, for your book, for your blog post, whatever it is that you're editing, to be as pitch perfect and error-free as possible. Do I know your country? Yes, I do. Okay, so let's focus on the writing, guys. That's what we're scoping about. We're not going to get... So... both the writer and the editor are really looking for the same end product, like your message crafted as perfectly as possible, clearly communicating to your audience, igniting a movement, a passionate response from your reader. That's what everyone on both sides of the table wants, right? And so the question for a lot of writers is, how do I even... Okay, once you get past that hurdle of like wanting to work with an editor, I think that is the first hurdle. A master's degree in American Studies. Nice. the next question is, okay, so I want to work with an editor. How do I work with an editor? And this is a huge blank space for a lot of people. They don't even know what type of editing they might need or what type of editing is out there. So I wanted to do this scope to talk about. Okay, Badul, let's focus on the writing here. Okay, so let's talk about editing and writing. That's what we're here to talk about. All right, so there are lots of different types of editing, and I wanted to kind of walk you through them. And if you have to hop off at any point, I do take scope notes. So that is available. These are notes from our scope that are available on my website. Let me go ahead and give you that address just in case anyone needs to hop off. If you go to paperravenediting.com/periscope, that is where I keep all of my Periscope. So all this is kind of written down in note form. Okay, so let's go through some of these types. And I'll go through them based on chronological order, like when you would bring in this type of editor. So the first type is a writing coach, and a lot of people don't even know what a writing coach is. This is what I primarily work with authors on. A writing coach is someone who you involve in the really early stages of writing. Maybe you're trying to write anything from website content or a book, and you're just having trouble getting started and getting clear on what the writing is going to look like. And so you bring in a writing coach who will help you talk through what you want to write about, maybe do some writing exercises that help you clarify what it is that you're really writing about and why. And then the writing coach will help you identify sort of the best way forward and keep you motivated as you're writing, and then also do sort of fine-tuning and editing as you're going. So the coach is the person who really walks with you from beginning of the writing all the way through at least the first draft. I mean, I work with authors all the way through finished product. So you gotta check with the writing coach and see how involved they like to be in the whole process. So writing coach is early on. Next in the phase is a developmental editor. So this is someone that you bring in when you have a completed first draft. So the first draft is totally done. You don't have like random notes here and there. It's all sentences and paragraphs and all a whole first draft. And then you send it to a developmental editor. And this person is really going to focus on the big picture. So a development editor is going to read through it just like a reader would and mark sentences or paragraphs that you'll need to revise. And they'll give you a reason. They might say, this sentence doesn't really fit with what you're talking about in this paragraph, so you should either delete it or reconsider the whole paragraph, or they'll highlight, chunks of the manuscript and say, you're getting a little off tangent here, this isn't really applicable to the chapter. Or if you're working with like a long blog post even, you could still have developmental editing on that, and they might say, this paragraph doesn't fit with the overall flow that you're talking about. Or if you're working with a book, they might say, when you get to this part in the middle of the book, it slows down, the pace slows down, it's not engaging, it's not interesting anymore. So they'll give some suggestions on what you can do to pick that pace back up. It might involve cutting part of that middle section. It might involve moving some chapters around so that you keep the pace up. So if you think about how, I don't know if you use word track changes, but that's what we use in the editing world all the time, is word track changes is the gold standard way to make changes and suggestions in a document, and then both parties can see what changes were made. Word like marks them as different colors and puts little comment bubbles out on the side so you can see what was changed. So for developmental editing, if you think about the word track changes, they're not going to be changing things in the sentence. They're going to be highlighting sentences or paragraphs and making little comment bubbles out on the side and giving you suggestions, like you could do this or you could do that. The next sort of editor that you would work with is a copy editor or a line editor. People kind of use those two terms interchangeably, copy editor and line editor. This is the person that's going to go through and really reshape your sentences. Like they'll take out parts of, maybe they'll take out the beginning of the sentence and replace it with a different word, or they will flip different parts of the sentence around to make it flow more smoothly, or if a sentence is really long, they'll break it up into two different sentences and help you reword that so that they flow really well together. So if you think back to the word track changes, your copy editor or line editor is gonna be making lots of changes inside every sentence. I mean, and the copy editor phase is really scary as an author because, and I've experienced this, when you get it back, it's totally marked up. Like, you get horror like flashbacks to elementary school or high school or college when a teacher just went in with a red pen and marked everything up. So this is the phase that's usually really scary for authors because you just see how much someone has changed and you feel like a little bit uncertain. You're like, wow, a lot has been changed. How do I feel about this? And so that's when you kind of go back through and you read it. And for the most part, a copy editor is just going to help identify different patterns that you have in your writing. So like if you use the same phrase over and over again, a copy editor is going to like start taking that phrase out and replacing it with different phrases so that it doesn't sound so redundant to the reader. Things like that. And so the copy editor really helps it to sound like good to the reader. And then the next phase is a proofreader. So you only, and most people, this is kind of the funny part, most authors only want to work with a proofreader. They think, oh, I'm pretty good. Like, I've got my first draft done and I've done the first couple edits, so I'm just going to bring in a proofreader. But a proofreader is usually the very last person who sees a manuscript before it goes off to be submitted or published or whatever. So a proofreader is only going to change commas and spelling and like capitalization. A proofreader will not be able to tell you whether your manuscript makes sense or whether your sentence could be worded differently because that's not a proofreader's job. That's supposed to have already happened. A proofreader is like zeroing in on like the very most like fine details and making sure that everything's completely error-free. So if and I mean, I struggle with this too because I am an editor and an author, so I like to think, oh, I've already done all the editing. But I'm so glad, like on my last book, I went ahead and brought in an editor pretty early on, and I'm so glad because if I had just waited until the proofreading stage and had someone just change commas and spelling and capitalization, my manuscript wouldn't have been nearly as good. You just need that other person, the editor, to help you like bounce ideas and make sure that you're saying what you really mean to be saying. And then the last person, the real last person in the lineup is the formatter. And the formatter doesn't change anything in the sentences, doesn't even really read the sentences. Formatter just makes sure that everything looks good on the page. So whether you're publishing like an ebook on Amazon or iTunes, or whether you're printing out a PDF or an actual typeset physical book, the formatter, or sometimes called typesetter, is the person who makes sure that everything looks perfect on the page. Sort of like everything, all the subheadings are bolded correctly, all the sentences, don't get chopped off in the middle of the page, all the chapters, like the beginning of the chapter looks the same throughout. So that's kind of the rundown. If you go from chronological order of when you might involve someone, writing coach could be first, and then developmental editor, and then copy editor or line editor, and then proofreader, and then formatter. So it's kind of a lot more involved of a process than most writers realize, but I think the editing and proofreading process is going to get way more important because so many people are writing. And this is awesome. I love that so many people are writing. I mean, you've got people writing blogs and books and putting stuff on Amazon and, PDF ebooks that they give away on their website. Tons of really awesome content. But a lot of people aren't taking themselves very professionally. And so we're putting out a lot of like mediocre books and stuff. And you've probably noticed this. Like, how many times do you go to Amazon.com now to buy an ebook and you see the price tag is like 99 cents and you're like, I don't know, is this book gonna really be worth my time? And I think that's what it comes down to is we keep lowering the price of our content. We think, oh, if it's 99 cents, anyone will buy it. But sure, maybe they'll buy it. But the question is, will they read it? They'll give you their 99 cents, but will they give you the time that it takes to read the blog or the PDF or the ebook? And they are only going to give you that time if it's well written. And ultimately, that's the whole point of writing online, is that people would take the time, read your stuff, come to know and like and trust you and want to come back for more. Like, that's why we do this. That's why we write blog posts so that people will get value from them and sign up for our email list. We write, opt-ins, PDF book opt-ins so that people will give us their email and they'll read it and they'll want to come back to our blog for more. We write books so that people will read the book and either like join our cause or sign up with us as a client or book us for a speaking gig or something like that. But they're not gonna do any of those things if they don't actually read the book. So the book has to be good. And the silver lining of this whole situation is it's not that hard to stand out above all this mediocre crap. Honestly, like so I went through one of those like courses. Confession time. I am a writing coach, but when I was writing my book, I went through one of those courses that kind of walks you through because I knew I needed the accountability. And so even though, I kind of knew everything that the course was actually teaching, what it gave me was a timeline and a group that was going through the timeline at the same time and an accountability partner. So all of that was perfect. But I was really surprised at how much of the stuff that was being published by other people was just really, really mediocre. Like, they were asking people to like read their book for free and leave a review on Amazon. And like most of them, I didn't even want to leave a review on Amazon because it just like, they're pretty mediocre. And so it's like, well, how can I recommend that someone pays $6 or $7 for this book when I'm not sure that you even got it edited at all? Like, I see typos all over the place. And so going back to like the good thing about this situation is that for you to stand out in this crowded marketplace doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Like, you write, and if you want to write an ebook that's 15 or 20,000 words and then you pay to get it edited, like really edited. Like, if you're hiring someone out of the Philippines for $5 an hour, that's not really edited. Sorry. Like, that's just my opinion. And get like a good editing job on it, you're going to be way above the competition. And I guess that's kind of like what I would hope that authors would start to realize is going back to this Chris Ducker scope. Chris Ducker wrote a book on putting together a virtual assistant team, and it was traditionally published, and so it went through a rigorous editing process. But before he sent it to his publisher, he actually paid for his own developmental edit. He went out and found a developmental editor and got someone to do that phase for him, and he said it made all the difference in the world because his book was much better even when he sent it to the publisher. And then of course once it is in a publisher, it goes through 3 or 4 rounds of editing after that. So what I think he was sort of saying is that the book that he wrote was foundational to like growing his business, and part of why it did so well, it hit bestseller lists all over the place, was because he voluntarily got a developmental edit, and then it went through a whole editing process. And so by the time it was finished, it was an amazing book because it had all this fantastic input on it. And now it's an asset that he has to build his business for the rest of the life of his business. So when you think about how Chris Ducker did this book thing, and while he was doing a Periscope describing this whole process, and while he was talking about this process, all the other people who were watching were throwing in these comments and questions like, but why did you hire an editor? You know, how much does an editor cost? Can you get him from the Philippines for $5? Did you lose control over your manuscript? And all this sort of like worry around the editing process. What they're not seeing is that the reason Chris's book did so well is because he was not afraid to have that input from an editorial team. And so like all these worries and stuff that you have about, oh, is an editor going to screw up my manuscript? Okay, if you're paying $5 to someone from the Philippines, they might. But nothing against the Philippines. Sorry, that's like, if you're a VA from the Philippines, then I'm really sorry. But there are lots of people who do great work out of all sorts of countries. But there's an American mindset, and this is totally Americans being like looking for the cheapest way to outsource, which is really weird in and of itself. Like, Americans are like, where's the country where I can get the best deal? Right? You can go to Elance, which is now Upwork, and you can find some really quality people on there, but you have to really look. But Americans have this idea that, like, I don't know if there are other Western countries are like this too. They're like, I'm going to outsource to some middle of the world country, and I'm going to pay cheap. And like that's what their goal is. But like Americans in the Western world needs to like flip that around, because you're not looking for someone cheap. You're looking for someone quality. And whether that person lives in the Philippines or the Middle East or San Diego, like whatever, wherever they live, you need to be looking for quality, not $5 an hour, right? And so that's one of the things that Chris was kind of he does virtual assistant teams, like that's what he does, is kind of getting people past that mindset of like, where can I find the cheapest editor? And he's like, no, you need to find the best editor who will really serve your writing. And so wherever that editor comes from, and I'm sure there are like amazing editors who are living in the Philippines or Indonesia or India or any of these places, but you've got to go out and look for really quality people and not just find the cheapest person on Upwork.com or whatever. Because this book or blog or whatever content you're writing is foundational for your business. And so you should really think carefully about when to involve someone in the editing process and who you're hiring, because it's really important. I mean, just like if you're going pro with your website, you're not going to just like hire some random person who's never done a website before. You're going to hire someone, you're going to see their portfolio, you're going to see testimonials from them, and you're going to know that they're going to do a quality job. And it's that same mindset that needs to be around your writing, because it's how people first come to know you. They first come to know you through your blog posts and through your ebooks and through your PDF opt-ins and hopefully through your books that are published in print and on paperback. So it's important, guys. Get an editor and not just the cheapest person that you find on Upwork.com. So yeah, I've got a couple minutes. Does anyone have any questions before we have to jump off? Any questions about writing in general or editing or coaching or... I mean, I do more of like the actual writing process itself. I know some about the publishing and marketing and internet marketing kind of stuff, but mostly my expertise is really in like writing and writing routines and editing and how to do self-editing and that sort of thing. So I do scope pretty regularly about this kind of stuff. So if you're not following me, hit that little Perry dude down there and click the I don't know if it's a plus sign. It becomes a plus sign when you click it and it says following. And then I'll let you know when I'm scoping. And if you want the scope notes for this scope, you go to, let me flip you around so you can see. You go to paperravenediting.com/periscope. And, well, I can pull up the website so you can see what it looks like online. But I post, it's just an Evernote file that I share. And then, oops, it's going to show my email. Hold on. Y'all don't need to see my email account. I put the notes up there. Sorry, I'm also typing one-handed, which is not, not super easy to type one-handed. Okay, here we go. It's loading. Oop. That's my website. This is the Periscope page. And when I get my act together, I put a thumbnail up. But right now, if you just click right here on Scope Notes, it shows the notes on writing coach and developmental editor, copy editor, proofreader, formatter. Hop over there. Go check out those scope notes. All right, guys. Good luck. Go get some writing done. Start thinking about when you would involve an editor in your writing, because it's super important. And I will catch you guys on the next broadcast. Thank y'all for hanging out. And y'all have a good day. Alrighty. Bye, guys.